Hi, my name is Robyn Fisher, and I am the rabbi at Beth in South Dade. In this week's Parashat, Tetzaveh, we find a great emphasis on the clothing of Aaron, the high priest, and his sons, the priests, who were charged with performing the rituals in the Mishkan, the sacred space of the Israelites during their travels throughout their 40 years in the desert. The Torah instructs them as follows: Ve'asita bigdei kodesh le'aharon achicha, lekavod u'tiferet. You shall make sacred clothing for Aaron your brother, for honor and for glory. It gets us thinking about the importance that clothing plays in our lives. Coming off of my son's wedding just a month ago, I can attest to how much energy I poured into finding just the right dress as the mother of the groom. Until I landed on the perfect choice. They were either too sparkly, too black, not special enough, not modest enough. Didn't really have a vision for what I wanted to wear. But deep down, there was a message that I wanted to convey. It just took a long time to figure out just what that message was. We all go through some of this process when we decide what we want to put ourselves or how we want to put ourselves out there in the world every day. Maybe not to the same extent, though. Clothing, whether in ancient days or in the year 2022, has the power to change us and others with whom we come in contact. Our society establishes appropriate clothing for certain occasions, like at a formal wedding, at a synagogue prayer service, or even at a picnic in the park. Each occasion necessitates what people expect us to wear and how we will be received. There's also a designated clothing for professionals that sets the intention for the work and respect for their expertise, like a rabbi's talit and yarmulke at a prayer service, a policeman in his line of duty, or even a doctor's scrubs for a medical procedure. In the case of professionals, there's usually a practical reason for their clothing, as well as symbolic ones that can influence their behavior and that of others. Now, also think about how many of us wear articles of clothing that we've inherited from a loved one, like a pin or a jacket, helping us to remember them, to keep them close to us, and to help us channel their values or unique skills into our own lives. As servants of God, we read in our parasha that the ancient priests were prescribed to wear very distinct articles of clothing, such as a breastplate with 12 stones and the names of each of the 12 tribes of Israel, literally worn on the heart of the priest. It was to remind him of those he serves and those who came before him. It served also to instill humility and as a reminder to be intentional with his divine duties in the service of God. The high priest also had to wear a pure gold headpiece called atzitz that hung from the turbans that had the words "Holy to God" engraved on it, and it was to be worn at all times. Although this sign doesn't confer any special powers on the high priest, Rashi clarifies that wearing "Holy to God" at all times helped the high priest to be focused on the words and its implications and his role in expediting his holy obligations. And modern commentator Aviva Zornberg supports this idea when she teaches to be a Kohen is both to act out a role of service, to submit to a superior force, and to be an aristocrat, aware of the power in oneself. She cites this teaching as a reflection of the grave responsibility of thought and action, such that the words "holy to God" are intended to inspire the wearer to reflect appropriate holy behavior and intention. But according to the Zohar, the object of this phrase is not on the wearer, but on the person who has come to offer a sacrifice. When a person comes before the high priest, if the "holy to God" is reflected onto the face of the person standing before him, then that person was considered righteous. If there was no reflection of "holy to God," then the high priest knew that the one offering the sacrifice was arrogant, not ready to submit to God's will, and in need of intervention, in which case he would pray for God to have mercy on him or her. These commentaries describe how our clothing has the potential of impacting not only the wearer, but also the observer. The Malbim, a rabbi and Torah scholar of the 19th century, adds another dimension. He says that there are two elements of a person's clothing, the outer and the inner. The outer clothing expresses part of the person's personality and identity, but there is a deeper level of clothing too, and that is the soul's clothing, reflecting the deep characteristics of a person. The goal, says the Malbim, is to have our soul's garment match our outer garments to communicate who we are, what we believe, and what we value to the world. Many commentators have also noted how our Jewish clothing has enabled the Jewish people to survive our exile over the centuries. Clothing such as a kippah, tzitzit, tefillin, and more contemporary symbols such as a Jewish star necklace, as I am wearing, an IDF t-shirt, or Jewish symbol or phrase expressed even in a tattoo. They serve as reminders of the physical expression of our values and priorities, as well as proclaiming our pride and sense of belonging to our eternal tribe. These externalities are the first thing that we see on people, and therefore the first messages that we choose to communicate with the world. I'm not sure what soul message I was subconsciously proclaiming with the dress that I chose to wear to my son's wedding. Perhaps it was a combination of joy, femininity, pride, and confidence. It may not have carried the weight of holy to God that the high priest had to wear, but it was my soul reflection nonetheless in that moment of my life as a proud mother of the groom. In living our lives as God's partners, let us consider how the garb of our inner souls can project the truest essence of who we are to the outside world. I pray that we continue to strive to illuminate a divine message to build a world of love, compassion, and peace. If not from our clothing, then most certainly in the behavior we put forth into the world. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will. Shabbat Shalom.